Well, hello, hello, hello. How are we doing today, Instagram? I thought I was going to use my microphone, and nope. If I use my microphone, then I can't hear anything. And since Carol is joining us today from Mine Pet Platter, hello, hello. Okay, I'm going to invite you. It works. Instagram was working great yesterday, so I have all my fingers and toes crossed.
Hello,
Hello,
hello.
how are you?
Can you hear me
I
okay?
can, yes, ma'am.
Fantastic.
How are
Is
you
my
doing?
picture coming across or no?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, fantastic. We did it.
We did. I know. I'm so excited. Last week Instagram was giving me so many problems, but so far this week I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like knock on all the wood and cross all the fingers.
So I guess I should press share video, right?
Should press. I don't think you have to do anything.
No, because it just says share this live video with others so they can watch too.
Oh, I mean, you can if you. I don't think that will kick you out or anything. So excited to have you guys join us today. This is going to be so fun. First of all, Carol, you are the creator of the Mine Pet Platter, and I happen to own 5 of them. So I have one right here, this pretty teal color. I want you to tell people a little bit. Thank you so much for letting us know Paleo Pet Goods. Oh, you're in Texas too. I'm in Texas. So the Mine Pet Platter it was a long time in the making. The research that you and your husband, your late husband, did on this. Right. Which is so incredibly fascinating to me. I was literally just thinking before I hit live, I was like, this is totally something that I would expect to hear and learn about on like the Joe Rogan podcast.
I'd love to go with Jill. My daughter's in Austin, so maybe I'll get that set up then.
Yes. So how did you, what the research you were doing kind of led you down this path? So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the inspiration, like most ideas, come from our own personal experience. And we had a little Havanese named Pip, who was 14 pounds, but packed a punch. She had really good attitude. And so she used to eat from, and she would eat her meals so fast in probably under a minute, maybe minute and 15 seconds. And then she would let the most horrendous belch. You would think a 500-pound football player. I couldn't have people over for dinner because they would have tears streaming down there. That is just, it was just so extreme. So one day I was making her chicken breasts, and there were scraps and juices left on the cutting board. And my daughter said, Mom, why don't you give those to Pip? So I put it down. I put it down and for the next 15 minutes, my daughter and I sat there going, this isn't our little Pip. What happened to her? She was moving around. She was sniffing. And it took her about 15, 20 minutes. And she looked up at me like, Mom, this is the best thing that you could have done for me. So when my husband came home, said the most amazing thing happened. He said, Eureka. So my background was in psychology, and I, for a very long period in the food industry, understanding why people made the food selection they did and what their actual feeding habits were, eating habits. And so I started down a journey of saying, you know what? The closest living relative to our dogs is the gray wolf. Let's get into these instinctive feeding behaviors. Let's see what's operating there. So a whole new world emerged for us. We were talking to wildlife specialists. I volunteer at zoos. I have observed so many videos of wolves killing prey, deconstructing it. And what I realized is we're really not appreciating the wolf within our dog. And even though we like to think of them as family members, they are still very instinctive creatures. And they just took an evolution from the wolf in the wild feeding off carcasses through domestication, where they came closer to settlements and were scatter fed to the point where we've domesticated them. So we're the ones that changed their feeding ecology. We took them from a carcass all the way to a bowl. And through all the work that we did and studying how animals actually feed, we sort of put them in a difficult position because eating from a bowl is one of the most challenging things for them.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Are you
So I just find this absolutely fascinating, from the idea of, a wolf eating off of a carcass, a wolf, a coyote, like there are so many animals that eat this way, obviously wolves being the closest relatives to our dogs.
right?
But even for our
Yeah,
cats, like thinking about how lions and tigers, so I think tigers are the closest to our domestic cat, or what we consider our domestic cats. Um, and even some animals, I don't remember exactly which ones. I don't remember if it's a tiger or a jaguar, or
the
like
wild
they.
cat, the North African wildcat,
Okay.
about 30,000 years ago. That's the closest ancestor.
So, and some of them will actually take their food, their prey, like up into trees. When we think of on the feline side, which kind of gives us a little bit of insight as to why so many of our cats like to eat up high, I think. But so before I learned about the Mine Pet Platter, which was two-ish, a little over 2 years ago, I think, when I met you at Super Zoo for the first time, I did feed out of bowls sometimes, but I had just recently transitioned to feeding off of like wooden cutting boards. So that's what I had been doing for like a little while when I met you. And
Right.
you were telling me, because I did have you on the podcast, but it was like forever ago. Little things like this, like licky mats and different, like this is actually harmful to their noses. Can you tell me a little bit about like why that
You know,
is? What's
so it's
going on
really
there?
interesting because the whole point of the pet platter was to look at feeding from a dog's perspective, because everything that's sort of available in the market these days is designed from a human perspective. So what you just showed is one of those type mats. And what happens with those is it's designed to slow your pet's feeding by making sure the food gets caught in corners and ridges and everything else. Well, here's the problem. Dogs, as well as cats, see the world through their noses. They have over 100 million sense sites. So when you're feeding from a lick type mat, they're smelling the food, but they can't get it up because it's not designed for them to get to the food, which is why everything pet platter is designed to go downward. So is designed to go downward. I apologize.
That's okay.
Is designed to go downward. So there's no frustration with that at all. So you have to take into consideration if they're smelling the food and then they can't get to it, the tongues aren't designed to get to it. This leads to highly repetitive licking, which leads to obsessive compulsive behavior and then can even lead to aggressive behavior. So heard from a lot of pet parents who have reported back to that they've actually had to take the leg mat away because the animal is trying to tear it apart because they can't get to the food. So what are they naturally do? Try to deconstruct it to get to that food, which is very instinctive behavior.
Yeah.
The same thing with the um, uh, the slow feeders that have projectiles coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is it hits into their noses. This is for both cats and dogs. And when you hit into the animal's nose, they have mucous membrane on the inside of their nasal cavity, and that begins to swell. And if food actually gets caught up in there, trying to work around to get the food, it actually dries the nasal cavity out, and then they can't smell.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't smell, they can't eat because they don't know what's in front of them. So it's another case in point. Somebody came up with the idea, well, let's just put a projectile there. You know, it's like us sitting at our dinner table, and lo and behold, if somebody was sitting there with a spoon hitting us in the face, I don't think we'd be very happy about that either.
Very true. Very true. I did want to go through a couple of these comments. So Paleo Pet Goods is saying they need to order some more platters. Wendy 7051 loves your platters, and was also asking about so, and I wanted to get to this, but we'll just go ahead and talk about it. The materials that you're using to create these platters is very different, because I know for those of us like myself who try to be very aware of the products we're bringing into our home, I try to minimize plastics for various reasons. One of which that Wendy brought up is that it can, it's porous. So it's like absorbing all of the toxins, the chemicals from any cleaning products that we're using on it. So I know you don't, this is not plastic. So do you want to explain that a little bit?
It's a cellulose fiber composite, which is actually non-porous. So you don't have to worry, especially if you feed raw, you don't have to worry about that going in at all. And the cellulose fiber is sustainable. So we use trees, and when pine trees are cut down, we replant 5 pine trees 5 feet apart. So we get into sustainable forestry as well. But another thing we do is third-party independent testing to ensure that it is absolutely non-toxic and there are no chemicals. One of the things that we learned a lot about, and here's another benefit of our product, why our product is more expensive, is it's 100% USA. All materials, all manufacturing, our manufacturing facility is in Northwest Wisconsin. Everybody who manufactures the product actually uses it. They're my second family. But the reason for that is so many different countries and manufacturers are coming in right now. And they're saying, well, for example, a lot of bowls are now being manufactured in India. I don't think people realize that currently about 65 to 70% of their stainless steel comes from China. And that steel can be from toxic places, nuclear processing, all those sorts of things. So while you may think, oh, it's India and it's not China, the sourcing of materials is so critical. And I have a chemist friend who does analysis and was working on a project, got a bunch of different stainless steel bowls in from China. Over 60% of them were radioactive. So it's not to panic people, but it's just to say sourcing of material. See a product today that's more expensive, it's really probably because the sourcing of the material is in the US, and it just a lot more. And manufacturing, I could manufacture for a quarter the cost if I did this in China. So my husband and I always believe we best for our pets, and people are spending so much money on food. You want to make sure that the way you're serving is as well. So that's just a little background.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I think that's a lot of that is so important. And I see Dr. Kosher joined us. Do you use the Mine Pet Platter, Dr. Kosher? I would love to know. Um, and there were so many things that you brought up there. I get so many email solicitations for, promote our product, promote our product, promote our product. And I have never, ever, ever said yes to any stainless steel product because 9 times out of 10, it is a company in China. But I know that like there is so much I don't know about stainless steel. I tend to not even use it with my pets. I use not that it, if you have a good quality stainless steel food grade, it made in the USA.
Yeah,
That's wonderful and hygienic and all the things, but I tend to do even like porcelain and stuff for my water dishes just because there's so much I don't know about
right.
steel. And it's just one of those things that I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, and I don't feel comfortable promoting products like that because I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. But yeah, China and India I think are like the two most polluted countries on earth. If I have that correct, I think that's the case. um
Well, and I think, if you noticed on a lot of labels, they don't say where it's manufactured. There's not an obligation for manufacturers to do that. But I think a sure sign of that, if a product is really, really, that in all likelihood it's not being manufactured in the US at all.
yeah.
So I just consider it, the pet platter to us is sort of the foundation of healthy eating. If you're allowing your dog to eat the way that they're meant to, then with all of these wonderful food products that are becoming available for pets today, it's how you feed and what you feed coming together, basically.
Yeah.
And that's a good match. That's a really good match
It
to have.
is. Hi, Diane. By the way, thank you so much for jumping in and saying hi.
There's,
So
there's one other thing I'd like to talk
yes,
about, and this
please.
this has become more and more apparent because fast eating is such a huge problem today. One of the most, oh, somebody's around.
Yes. She's like, yes, fast eating is a problem.
One of the most common problems, and I saw some statistic, like over half of pet parents talk to their vets about their pet eating too fast and how to slow them down. And the one good thing about the pet platter is that this territory, it's their own personal feeding territory, which is why we call it the Mine Pet Platter. It's their personal territory. But by spreading the food around into the rib here and into the scoops, which resemble the ends of bones, you're actually naturally slowing down the feeding process, which actually improves digestion. But you also get to a point of allowing better nutrient absorption. Because when the pet is eating so fast and either choking or developing food bloat or whatever other problems emerge, you want to make sure that the digestive process is a smooth flowing one. And a lot of pets today are getting food bloat, not GDV, but just building up all that air in their stomach and causing a real problem. So I think that's why there's so many variations of slow feeders today that are poking, jabbing, balls in the middle of the bowl, all these other things. Whereas if we give them that territory resembling more of a carcass, then it's naturally slowing them down without any of those artificial things taking place. Because we want to protect those noses. It's one of my mantras now. I said, honor thy nose.
I honor thy nose. I love that. So you've kind of talked a little bit about this already, but like how is this because it to me does not look like a carcass, right? But you've talked about the crevices and the ridge here, which I love the ridge to catch all the liquids because I am huge on moisture. Like I don't care what it is you're feeding, I always want more moisture. Even if you're feeding like the best, raw food diet, I'm always adding moisture to it. Whether that's like a bone broth or a goat's milk or whatever. So I love the ridge for that reason, and my dog really loves going in there and like licking all the way around. So can you be a little bit more specific on how this is designed to be a little bit more like carcass feeding?
Sure. Number one is that this is sort of what would be considered a stomach area, the prime area where they deconstruct the carcasses. And the interesting thing is that the pet parents can become involved in putting organ meat and various aspects of what would be opened up in a carcass, muscle meat and all the other things, and pushing it in to resemble the actual carcass. And we have some pet parents who have sent great pictures of the creativity is absolutely unbelievable. Then the ridges here, this is to resemble sort of the area of the rib cage of the animal, where they would go in and sort of lick or pull meat from. And then the divots here do resemble the ends of bones. And part of why we have these multiple ones in is because we wanted more licking involved, which releases the positive endorphins and causes more relaxation and more rewarding behavior. So this actually, but if you notice, the size of the divots on large and small are different. They were actually designed to fit the size of the tongue of the animal.
Okay,
cool. So everything on the pet platter, even within the ridge, there's no area where they cannot get to the food. And that's why it never leads to obsessive compulsive licking, because they're able to get to that food. And believe me, most pet parents say, I can't believe they lick every single speck of food. And it was designed especially for that. My late husband and I, when we started this journey, because he was a product designer, we went through about 13 different variations of this. And I know it looks simple now, but where we started was quite contorted to get to where you need to be. But simplicity is the best way a good product comes about, because it's easy for the dog to maneuver. The other thing that's important, and I'm sure some people who have been here have heard me say this before, the worst place you can feed your pet is in the corner of the kitchen. And the reason for that is when they kill their prey in the wild, they will stop and actually circle the animal to make sure no other animal can come and get it. And I've observed so many videos, and even at the zoo, where sometimes we'll give the wolves like a rabbit inside a paper bag or some sort of bag, and they'll play with it, roll in it, and because it's a prized possession. But another wolf can come in, and in under a second, that rabbit will be gone. Just so their core sensory elements are designed to protect their prey. And so by giving them control, the pet platter, they circle, you never want to push them in a corner, because their eyes are at a 20-degree angle their hearing, they hear at much higher frequency than we do and at much further distances. So if they can't see periphery vision and they're hearing all of these noises behind them, it becomes a highly anxious feeding situation, which is why they'll dump food out of their bowl, relocate it to another area, something of that effect. Did I
That's so
talk
interesting.
today? Sorry.
Oh no, no, you're good. You're good. It's so interesting because even with my dog, who she is an only dog, and she doesn't like we don't push her up against a wall. Yes, Diane, it is for cats as well, and I'm glad to hear that your cat is, or I'm sorry, Diego's blood test came back better today. So but like there is a wall kind of next to the area where she eats, and some of the items that we will put on her platter to eat,
Yeah.
she will grab them and take them somewhere else. Like some of the more like I mean loves chicken hearts. So like that's her one of her absolute favorite things. She will grab it and take it somewhere else to eat it.
That's
And I'm wondering if it is because that wall is like right there. Like she's not facing it, but it's right there.
it
Um,
could be because they typically position themselves in a way that if a threatening situation comes about, they can leap out and above the pet platter. So the way they position themselves in the platter is most comfortable to them to protect their meal, but also if somebody comes in threatening to them, they can get away. So with a bowl, they don't have any decision to make. They're stuck with what that position is. So you're literally opening up their world where they have more control. And in the wild, it is about control with animals. It's all about control.
yeah, for sure. One of the things, since we're talking about like an eating experience, which I think this is definitely for our animals, one of the things I like to do when it's like really nice outside is I will literally take my dog into like the middle of the backyard.
Yeah.
So there's like nothing, it's just trees and grass, and put her platter down and just let her walk around and do her thing and eat and just enjoy being out in nature. And like that's one of my favorite things to do with her.
Great. Well, another thing that's fun to do, especially with cats, is we've had different pet parents send in videos where they'll put a pet platter in a different room and the cat will be up on the bookcase. And then you see him and he'll come down, pounce near the pet platter, and then dash off. And they play with it, for hours. And it's almost like it's their prey in the wild. And we know how they love to play with their actual prey when they kill it. It's that same variation. It's their feeding territory. And the other thing I should mention is the reason we have different colors. I don't know if we've covered this before, is that both cats and dogs have a different color spectrum than we do. They have more rods than cones, so they can actually see and differentiate between yellow, blue, and reds come off more as a tan or a brown. So if you have more than one pet, a cat and a dog, two cats, or whatever your case may be, the platter, the color you first serve your pet on is the color they adopt as their own, and they'll respect the color of the other pet, and it eliminates food stealing and food aggression as well.
Wow.
So that was part of the reason we call it the Mine Pet Platter. It really is their personal feeding territory. And we even have pictures with dogs sleeping by it, visiting it, all sorts of special things. So they do bond with it. And we help a lot of rescues as they transition. And they take their pet platter with them. So coming into a new home, it reduces anxiety and gives them that familiarity. So we try to work with a lot of rescues to allow them to have something to take with them into the new homes as well.
I love that because, yeah, it is definitely something that as humans, like we, especially in the US, so many of us, most of us, don't have that like food scarcity issue. So we don't think about that with our pets, even though we know that their next meal and the meal after that and the meal after that is coming. They don't. Like it's just part of being an animal that you don't ever know when your next meal is coming.
Well, and that's one of the things when people, sometimes we have people say, well, dogs are domesticated, cats are a unique breed because they will go into a feral existence and survive just fine on their predatory hunters, and they do fine. But even with dogs, people often say, well, my dog is really domesticated. And I love bringing up the example of a case where a 1-year-old German Shepherd Husky mix fell off of a fishing boat in Southern California, and the owner didn't realize it. And they searched for 8 hours, could not find the animal. Coast Guard was looking for it, and they really thought that the dog had perished. And then lo and behold, on some island that was not inhabited, more for cell sites or whatever, there was a maintenance crew out there. And all of a sudden, this dog came charging at them and jumped into the truck like, I'm ready to go home now. That dog survived 5 weeks and went through one of the worst storms ever recorded in that area, and was absolutely fine and survived on rodents and on fish. So
Wow.
here is a domesticated dog, never existed in the wild at all, and did just fine on his own. So we always have to remember to bring that in, that there's that little bit of wild in them. And I forgot where I was going to go. What was I talking about?
No, it's totally. I mean, we're just kind of going all around anyway. Um, so, well, Diane is asking. I don't know. Do you ship outside of the U.S.?
We will be in the UK. We are planning next year to do that. But if you contact our site, we'll be able to direct you to somebody who can get it sent to you.
Okay, because I know there are like other retailers. I don't know, like Dr. Judy, because I think I actually bought all of mine from Dr. Judy's website originally.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of want to just reiterate one thing that you said because we talked about it in two different areas. Um, that licking is a very calming behavior for animals, but you don't want them licking to frustration.
Right.
So
Right.
there's like that differentiation there between
There is.
calm, pleasant licking.
Much like I'm sure everybody's experienced with some pet or heard about this, where a dog or a cat will lick a part of their body to the point where the fur is gone and it starts to irritate the flesh, actually, and also licking parts of furniture. That is the sort of thing that you get frustration, or there's a problem with the dog, that sort of thing. But relaxed, evenly paced licking does release positive endorphins and can have a very calming effect. One veterinarian that I worked with in Chicago got a rescue dog who had such severe separation anxiety that every time she left, the dog would tear down the curtains, the blinds, the screen. I mean, would lose all control. So I told her, get a nut butter, spread it all across the surface of the pet platter, put it in the middle of the room that he usually, tears apart. And I promise you, when you get back everything will be okay. So she said, you're going to have to pay for new curtains. This doesn't work. And I said, that's a deal. You got it. So she came back 3 hours later. As she was leaving, the dog was looking at her. A little panic was setting. Came back. The nut butter was off the pet platter, and the dog was asleep by the pet. And so, again, it's bonding with their feeding territory. It's the act of licking. So, there's positive and negative to everything in life. All behaviors have positive and negative in psychology. And the same principles, basically apply to pets as well.
So, just a couple of other things. One, I did want to bring up the fact that, we both have kind of talked a little bit about the, wonderful raw food diets, but this is good for, it doesn't matter what you're feeding.
Exactly. You can actually feed kids on this. There's no problem with that. On our website, we try to help people who have all different feeding types and try to help direct them to places to learn more and more about the types of diets that will benefit our pets most. It's great for canned, it's great for raw. And the thing that I love too is we're big proponents of goat's milk and bone broth. And so you can easily use it. And some pet parents will actually put they'll make little pools where you can pour a little goat's milk or bone broth in there, or you can even pour it on and freeze it. And it's great during the summer, or if you live in warmer climates, it just acts like one big popsicle. And dogs and cats just love licking it. So you can put it in the freezer. There's no problem with that at all. It's good for virtually anything. And because it's non-porous, you can put it in the dishwasher. There's no problem with that. And hand cleaning, whatever you want to do. But I think one of the other things that we enjoy hearing about from our pet parents is that they tell us that it helps them to be more creative and want to create more. So what we're trying to do with a lot of the food companies today is for them to help generate different ideas. And we're also asking veterinarians to put your favorite menu together. And we're sharing more and more of that with people. Because by idea, it's a great way that you can start trying that at home as well.
I love that. And I love that it doesn't matter what you feed, that this can be beneficial. So kind of selfishly, I would love to just hear a story or two about animals that you have observed in the wild. I want to hear like how they actually go about eating a carcass. Is that you descriptive?
No, well, it's I will try to say this in a positive way. One of the things that all wolves will do, it sort of depends on the size of the animal that they go after as well. If they go after smaller animals, that is not usually done in a pack. It'll be done on their own. And when they go into the carcass, and by the way, you can go to zoos and they have days where they show carcass feeding, and they will actually put a whole animal out there, again, depending on what's available. And you can watch the animal deconstruct. It's usually more of a herd pack mentality. And you can see them ripping various parts of the animal down. And if it's a very large animal, they do go for the limbs, but they know instinctively they go after organ meat. That is the prized possession. And I've even observed some animals who will pull out the key organ parts and line it up in the snow and, selectively eat, or the other members of the pack will eat. It's fascinating. Just like there's no single way of eating, but the organ meat is nutrient dense, so they instinctively know to go after that first. And they do pull the muscle meat from the bones, and they even eat the fur for fiber, which is a big component of that. So really, it is the skeleton is literally left. They use pretty much everything that's there. And depending on the animals, a lot of times when they go after like buffalo, those animals, it takes 5 to 6 to 7 hours to kill. They're not capable of killing a large animal just simply by attacking. It's usually by wearing them out, getting them to go into areas where they'll sink in the mud, or where they walk. And so they will circle, keep the animal off to the side, away from the rest of their herd, and basically wear it down to a point of exhaustion. And the way they usually do is to go for the neck, to break and suffocate. But for larger animals, the wolf will also sometimes put their mouth over the nose of the animal to basically facilitate it passing. So it depends on, Africa versus in really cold weather out in Wyoming. It's different all the time. But organ meat goes first, then the meat. It's sort of like a hierarchy of what is most prized. But also they know instinctively what nutrients their body needs, and that's why you'll see them going after different elements first and second. And with really large animals, if they can't eat it all, they will go and bury the meat. And if they become hungry during the winter months, they will go back to that. Most likely, the meat will be, with maggots and things of that sort, but they'll eat it to survive. So I'm sorry, did I?
No, I think it's fascinating.
I
Um,
don't like to go into too much detail because I know people get a
well,
little.
for a number of reasons, because, if we really do pay attention, if that is part of the education of feeding our animals,
Mhm.
then I think it just makes so much more sense to play with them, take them on a walk, do the thing, a hike, whatever it is that you're doing, that activity with your dog for that
Right.
day, and then them, because we are, again, not just using a special platter that's going to mimic a carcass, but we're also giving them the full experience, or as much as we can, with how we live today, with getting them kind of worn out with that, and where they would normally be hunting their prey and then eating.
Well,
So
you brought up a real important point. Basically, they spent 95% of their time in the wild hunting, tracking, killing, deconstructing. Their whole life revolved around that single event. And that's why the one thing I try to tell parents is, feeding from a bowl, we have taken a lifetime, the majority of a day, involved in the meal time, and reduced it to a couple of minutes.
yeah,
And that's the tragedy when you feed from a bowl. And the best analogy I can give is, when you feed your pet from a bowl, it's like you're feeding yourself from a fast food container. When you do that, you eat very fast. You don't really appreciate what you're eating, and you're probably hungry 5 to 10 minutes later, which is why most dogs will inhale their food, lay down right by the bowl, it's over, and we've taken the excitement away. So I think you're absolutely right. Make sure they get enough exercise, make sure we make up for that time where they would spend 10 to 12 hours a day, hunting a buffalo and running, and run up to 50 miles an hour. I mean, they were incredible creatures. And our dogs, even though they're smaller, they retain those same things. They still have a survival instinct. If the dog feels threatened, he's going to turn no matter how much you've domesticated them. There's feast and famine. Some people will say, my dog got into a bag of dog food, a large one, ate the whole thing. How could they do that? Feast or famine. Nature has programmed them. You better eat everything you can because you don't know when your next meal is going to be. And then the whole hunt prey instinct. Even though my little Havanese was only 14 pounds, if she saw a rabbit, she was off and running, and nothing was going to stop her, not even me. So there are three core instincts that we can immediately identify within our own dogs that is associated with their ancestors. Their jaws are smaller, their teeth are not exactly the same as the gray wolf, but they're still designed for meat eating, to tear things apart, and to go after fairly large animals. So when you look at the overall physiology, the resemblance between the gray wolf and the dog is the same. And for cats, cats are even more homogeneous. Their genome is almost identical. The major trait that is different is what is on their coats. If it's striped, they came from more grassland. If it's a solid color, it was more open terrain. And if it's spotted, they were in the forest. But their coats are the main difference for cats. That's about it. And that's why they can go into a feral existence almost instantaneously. So, so cats in particular, think about them being predatory animals. They hunt it alone. They're designed to be able, well, their whiskers in particular, and that's another benefit with the pet platter. You don't have whisker fatigue, and the whiskers are embedded 3 times deeper into their skin. And so when things are pushing onto those whiskers, they feel that deep down inside. And I've even talked to some pet parents who say that when their pets were eating, they'd actually see like tears coming down because the overstimulation was so severe, it became painful to that cat. All cats don't experience the same whisker fatigue. It can be different across the board. So, so by allowing them to let their whiskers, operate, and they have proprioceptors at the tips of their whiskers, that is always looking, gauging for prey and threats. They're very sensitive. It can look at air temperature, air current, directions of wind, all those certain things. So even for cats, you got to look at your cat and say, nature designed you. Your sensory circuit is designed for survival and to kill prey. So,
Yeah. And they hunt like all day long. They will hunt mice or rabbit or birds or whatever, like literally there and anytime they're awake, they're hunting.
well, domestic cats basically kill 20% more prey than any other animal if they are
Mm,
allowed to be outdoors. 20% more, which
yeah.
And there was a really fascinating study. I forgot what scientific journal it was in, but they tested a number of different foods with cats, and they found out what favorite food, whether it was chicken or salmon or whatever the case was. So they had the cat at in this maze-like situation with a bowl of that food. Then they would put a live mouse at another part of the maze, and the cat would stop eating the food, go and kill the mouse, bring the mouse back, put the mouse next to the bowl, and would continue eating its food then. And again, it's that predatory nature. It's opportunistic hunting. If it's available, they're going to go and kill it. But by golly, they brought it back and continued on with their meal. Fascinating creatures.
They are. My cats will, I try to just let nature be nature and not intervene as much as possible. When I lived in Escondido, California, I had never experienced scorpions before, but my cats killed a ton of them. And here, I'm in north of Austin right now. We get, I swear we have cricket season. There are just so many crickets around, and they will get into my cat room, and I will just see my cats like jumping up to like these crickets are jumping, and my cats are jumping up them, and I'm like, you go right ahead. Like, I am sorry, Mr. Cricket, but apparently this is your destiny yesterday.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. They're such interesting creatures, they are. And I encourage everybody to go to the zoo and observe them. And, you know, zookeepers love it when people are really interested in learning more about these animals. And, you know, they'll let you know when feeding times are going to be, when they're going to do special events with them, whatever. But go to your local zoos. It's a wealth of information, and I strongly recommend everybody observing at least one carcass feeding. It will give you a whole new appreciation on how they're really programmed to survive in the wild. And if we just take more time to observe our dogs eating, I mean, I think everybody first thing should observe how your dog or cat eats. For the next few meals, just take some time. Look at what they're doing. Are they moving around it? Do they seem anxious? Are they enjoying their meal? Because the one thing we can give back to them is that enjoyment factor and allowing them to experience things. And another factor I should bring up, which a lot of people don't know, is that dogs and cats have very few taste buds.
Mm.
Okay. Cats have, I think, 473. Dogs have 1,700. We have 9,000. We're driven by our taste buds.
Yeah.
So the problem is when you're putting food down, if you're putting it in a bowl, that is hiding all the different smells that could be coming out, especially if you're doing raw feeding and putting organ meat and everything else, because the food is held hostage in the bowl. They can't really get to it. By allowing them to sniff out the food on the pet platter, that's the way our dogs taste their food, is through the sense of smell. And with cats in particular, cats have a more sensitive nose than dogs do. They have V1R receptors, which help differentiate between smells. They have 30, dogs have around 9, we have 3, something like that. It explains why cats like really aromatic foods, because they're able to taste the food, basically.
Mm.
And going back to honor thy nose, this is another reason. If you want your dog and cat to enjoy their meal, make sure you spread out the food and the different elements so they can actually smell what's in front of them. And importantly, they'll tell you what they like first, second, and third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They food selection.
Yeah, I was a couple of years ago, I think for Kim's birthday, my dog's birthday, I did like a little like a charcuterie board almost where I put all these different things on it. It was very interesting to see what she went for and what she didn't and like the order she went in. It was absolutely fascinating. I already knew like she's not big into vegetables or fruits or anything like
Yeah.
that. She wouldn't touch blueberries at all. She's like, no, thank you. Which, I try so many different things because the dogs I had before her would eat blueberries, but only if I cut them open. Like if I tried to hand them one whole, no thank you. But if I cut it open, then
Yeah.
okay, they were good.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
Um,
Amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
it is. It's really interesting. I mean, it's just something fun for
Yeah.
you as a human to do, but you gain so much insight into what your animal likes that you can make their food choices moving forward like that much more enjoyable for them.
Right.
So where can people find you? Where can people get their hands on their own pet
Okay.
platters?
We're we sell them online. Dr. Judy sells them. We have a list of retailers also on website, and you could also get it directly from us. You can go to Mine petplatter.com and order directly. And we will have some exciting news. We will be coming out with some additional products. And Jessica, you're going to be one of the first that we're going to notify about those products. And it pertains to a water device as well as some other things. So I'll just leave it there. We want it to be a big surprise.
I love that, and I love surprises, and I will post the link in my stories.
Okay.
People can just click and go over, and I think you told me that people can get a little extra discount.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yes. So
Je-
is the coupon Jessica something, right?
Jessica 10, and we know how much information you bring to the pet world. We so appreciate everything you do and all the time you invest in that. So because Jessica is so special to us, if you put in Jessica 10 at our checkout online, you'll get 10% off.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I'll put that in my stories as well so people can just click and go over there and check it out. I think it's great. I think it's great for dogs. I think it's great for cats. I love like you gave us so many tips, so much great information, especially like every animal having their own feeding territory. That is so crucial, especially if you have, if you have a multi-pet household, you want all of your pets to know that like they don't have to be fighting each other for food. Like that's a thing.
And remember, honor thy nose, right?
Honor thy nose. I love that. That needs to be like on a t-shirt or something. Honor thy nose. All right, Carol.
We'll have to do that.
I appreciate everything that you do, everything that you have done, all of the incredible research that went into this product. I love all the behind the scenes of like the why of everything. So
Well, thank you. I so appreciate being on your show and look forward to seeing you soon.
yeah,
I'll be coming to Texas to visit my daughter, so we'll definitely.
I love that. All right, guys, please check out minepetplatter.com. I will put it in my stories. Go follow Carol as well. And until next time, bye.
Great to see you. Thanks, everybody.